الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المذلومين المنتخبين المنتجبين الذين كلامهم نور وأمرهم رشد ووصيتهم التقوى وفعلهم الخير وعادتهم الإحسان وسجيتهم الكرم لا سيما على مهدي هذه الأمة وطاووس أهل الجنة الحجة ابن الحسن الأسكري. السلام عليك يا أمين الله في أرضه وحجته على عباده. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، أشهد أنك جاهدت في الله حق جهاده وعملت بكتابه حتى دعاك الله إلى جواره. قال مولانا أمير المؤمنين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه: فزت ورب الكعبة. Our discussion was concerning different sayings and words of wisdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and understanding how Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi is part and parcel of those things that he says. And we discussed, for example, the saying الناس نيام إذا ماتوا انتبهوا. We discussed when the Holy Imam said من عرف نفسه فقد عرف ربه. And today I want to discuss something that we hear often during these nights, but maybe very rarely have we decided to ponder over this saying of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, which is on the 19th of Shahr Ramadan, when Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam is struck by Ibn Muljam. Whilst in prayer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says those very famous lines, those eternal lines of Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba, by the Lord of the Kaaba, I have been successful. And in analyzing this short statement of Amir al-Mu'mineen, a number of questions come to mind. For example, what is meant by fawz or success when he says Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba, by the Lord of the Kaaba I have been successful? What was meant by success, and what did Quran and Ahadith classify as success, so that we understand which success was Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam speaking about? And also the question comes, Amir al-Mu'mineen could have chosen any of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He could have said any title or used any title of Allah Azza wa Jal. Why did he say Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba, by the Lord of the Kaaba? And what significance does Kaaba have in this regard? Analyzing these different issues, the first issue, as I said, arises is with regards to al-fawz or success. What was meant by success when Amir al-Mu'mineen claims such? And here when we look at Quran al-Kareem, we find that success is mentioned in different ways and for different things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, on one occasion classifies something as fawzul kabir, fawzun mubin, fawzun azim. So sometimes he says this is a fawzun mubin, sometimes he says this is fawzun azim, and sometimes he says fawzun kabir. And the ulama came to look at the difference between all of these, saying that fawzun azim was the greatest type of success possible. Fawzun azim was then one stage lower, and of course fawzun mubin was the lowest stage of success mentioned in Quran al-Kareem. And so ulama came and said that fawzun mubin refers to when a person has saved himself or herself from the punishment of the hellfire. When I save myself from punishment, this according to Quran is classified as fawzun mubin, one type of success. The second type of success, which I said is one stage higher, is what is known as fawzun kabir, which is where not only do I save myself from punishment, I have also gained the Jannah and the ni'amat and the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was the second stage. And the third stage, according to Quran al-Kareem in certain ayat, which was known as fawzun azim, was not only have I saved myself from the punishment of the hellfire, and not only have I gained the bounties and ni'mat and the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have made myself be in those bounties for the rest of eternity. Hum fiha khalidun. So being in those bounties for the rest of eternity is what was classified in certain ayat as fawzun adhim. And so primarily we understand, according to Quran in many verses, fawz and success is in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but more specifically in these verses, fawz comes when a person saves themselves from hell and allows them to enter into paradise. And so the question arises, when Amirul Mu'mineen Salamullah alayhi says, Fustu wa Rabbil Ka'bah, by the Lord of the Ka'bah I have been successful, was he referring to this fawz and this success? I.e. by the Lord of the Ka'bah, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Alhamdulillah, I have reached paradise, I have saved myself from the hellfire. Is this what is meant? And of course, very simply, ta'ammulin qaleel, very easily we can tell that this cannot be what is meant. Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he's speaking about success, isn't talking about this. Why? Because Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullah alayhi never has a desire for Jannah. There's certain people, according to the riwayat, Jannah has more desire for them than they have desire for Jannah. For example, the riwayat says, Al-Jannatu a'shaq. Jannah has more desire for Salman than Salman has for Jannah. So if this is the state of the companions and the believers of Ali ibn Abi Talib, that Jannah wishes for them more and they don't have that much wish for Jannah, of course Ali ibn Abi Talib wouldn't have meant by fawz and success paradise. No, we know Ali ibn Abi Talib salamullah alayhi, his maqam and status is much higher than wishing for paradise and saying that I have been successful, i.e. I have entered into paradise. This is what me and you would classify as success on our level. So therefore then when we look at other ayat, we see that something else is also classified as fawzun adhim, or a great success. In addition to saving yourself from the fire, in addition to entering into the bounties and jannat of God, one of the things that is classified as success is waridwanun min Allah, gaining the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this could be one of the first possible meanings of his statement, Fustu wa Rabbil Ka'bah. Fawz and success according to Quran is when someone has gained the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. And who gained the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better than Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam? Whether it would be when he's on his the bed of the Prophet of Islam in the night of Hijrah, whether it's when he gives his ring in zakat whilst in ruku, whether it is all of the other moments in his life where he protects the Prophet of Islam and protects the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ali ibn Abi Talib always sought and achieved the ridwan and the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why he himself mentions in a beautiful riwayah, he says, for me, I would rather sit in the masjid than sit in Jannah. In my eyes, it's more preferable to sit in Jannah and the paradise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the masjid, than to sit in the paradise and the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? He explains. He says, because if I would be sitting in paradise, I would be sitting for my own pleasure. Allahu Akbar. But when I sit in the masjid, a house of God, I sit only for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I.e. Ali ibn Abi Talib is showing us how wherever the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam goes exactly in that direction. He goes wherever the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Azza wa Jal, can be found. This therefore was one of the interpretations of Fustu wa Rabbil Ka'bah. However, when we look at riwayat, we also find a number of different ideas given to what is classified as success, and how we classify someone as successful in the eyes of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. For example, according to certain riwayat, when a person fulfills their covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that person is classified as successful. Wafa bil ahd equals fawz. adhering to the covenant you made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is classified as success. What do we mean? All of us made a covenant with Allah Azza wa Jal of obedience, of tawheed, of worshipping none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I'm able to fulfill that in every single moment in my life, not even in one split second of my life do I go against that covenant with Allah, of obedience, of ita'ah, of worship of none but Him, I'm classified as successful. And we find in the lives of A'imma of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they often talk about this idea of the covenant made by the believer with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before I entered into this world, I had made this covenant with Allah Azza wa Jal. And I'll give you a few examples so we understand exactly what we're talking about. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, someone comes up to the Imam and says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a promise in Quranul Kareem. What was this promise? Ud'uni astajib lakum. Call out to me, pray to me, I will respond to you. How many times have I done dua and I haven't seen a response? How many times have I supplicated and I don't see a response? So the person came to Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, said, Ya ibn Rasulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a promise. Ud'uni astajib lakum. Pray to me, ask me, I'll answer you. So many times, Ya ibn Rasulillah, we ask and there's no response. So the person says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't answer His promise? What's the reason behind this? So Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam would respond by saying, first answer or first fulfill the promise you made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah will fulfill the promise that He made with you. Because you made a covenant with Allah to worship only Him, to not make anyone sharik and partner with Him, to obey solely Him. You instead were obeying your desires. أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاءَ. He says, first adhere to your promise of only having tawheed in your heart and not the idols of desire or idols of materialistic dunya mathalan in your heart. First adhere to your promise, then Allah will adhere to His. So there is this idea of the promise that the human being has made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We find another example of this promise in the life of Imam As-Sajjad salamullah alayhi. On one occasion, it's a very well-known riwayah, that on one occasion Imam Sajjad salamullah alayhi is busy in ibadat, busy worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know, of course, of his salah, how he would pray, how nothing around him distracts him in his prayer. Suddenly a person runs into the room that the Imam is worshipping in and says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, something terrible has happened. Still, Ali ibn al-Husein alayhi salam is focused on his salah. Something terrible has happened, Ya ibn Rasulullah, your son Imam Baqir alayhi salam has fallen into one of the wells of Medina. We're worried if we don't get him out, we can't reach that far, we can't get him out, that he's going to drown. So without paying any attention to him, the Imam continues with his salah. Imagine, if I know my child is in danger, of course there's many cases when I'm allowed to break my prayers. Life and death situations, harm, whatever it may be, I can break my salah. Yet still he's completely focused. After a number of minutes pass and he finishes that which he was supplicating, he finishes his salah, he sees the mother of Imam Baqir alayhi salam in that room crying. So he asks his wife, he says, why do you cry? She says, for my son. Who knows what is his state right now? He's been in the well for so long, he must have drowned. Anything could have happened. So with complete confidence and complete yaqeen, complete conviction in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he puts on his turban, he takes his aba, everything, he leaves his house, he goes to that well and he addresses the water. Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, according to the madhab of Ahlul Bayt, we believe that Ahlul Bayt have been given wilayah takwiniyya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed them to have control or power or allow them to supplicate and for things to take place, that their supplications are answered. he calls out to the water. The water in the well, he calls out and he says, rise with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The water begins to rise, and they see sitting on top of the water was Imam Baqir alayhi salam. Completely untouched, as if nothing has happened, busy, supplicating, doing dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For Imam Baqir alayhi salam himself, of course, is an infallible Imam. He's busy doing supplication and ibadat. Imam Sajjad picks him up out from the water well, and they start to go back as if nothing has happened. As if nothing has happened. So one of the companions that was there, he built up the courage to ask. He said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, may I ask a question? Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, Bismillah, you may ask. He said, how did you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer your dua? When you got to the well, you did a dua, Ya Allah, allow my son to be safe. And then you called up called the water, and the water rose. How did you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would answer your dua and listen to that which you say? So Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, if I have brought no shortcomings in my belief and worship and ita'ah and obedience to Allah, I know that He will have no shortcomings in answering my prayers. If there's been no naqs on my side, that I didn't worship Him, that I had sharik and partners to Him, then maybe He wouldn't answer. The same thing that Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq said. First adhere to your covenant with Allah, then He'll adhere to His. Imam Sajjad says, because in this heart never has anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entered, of course Allah will answer my dua and prayers. So this was the covenant that we made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second tafsir of Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba therefore is what? The second tafsir is that it was referring to him adhering to that covenant. I.e., when he's struck on his head, he can say that until my last moments, even in my last moments, I worshipped none but you. I obeyed none but you, never did anything other than you enter into this heart of mine. This was another idea. A third interpretation of Fustu and Fawz here is that we understand Fawz and success, whatever it may be. Now, I gave some ideas of Fawz in Quran, I gave some ideas of Fawz in Ahadith. Fawz and success in our life today, when does it come? In whatever it may be. Someone in the workplace is successful, someone in education is successful, someone in dunyawi affairs is successful. All of the success that we have has something in common, has something shared. Which is what? Which is that success only comes with sacrifice. When you see people, for example, that have made loads of money in their life. Yes, they were lucky in places, but they sacrificed. When you see a person who's successful in education, he's very clever, he does very well, even in the workplace, because they've sacrificed things. They sacrifice their time, they sacrifice their other pleasures. Today, when you, for example, find someone who reaches the level of marji'iyya and becomes marji' a'la because they sacrifice so many things, that instead of enjoying themselves and spending time in entertainment, they sacrifice this to study the ulum of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. One of the things that we find in all areas of success is sacrifice. And maybe this is what Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam was saying when he said, Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba. Now I have been successful. Why? Because not only throughout my life I sacrificed my time, I sacrificed my money and I gave for Islam, I sacrificed my own blood, I sacrificed everything that I had. The only thing that was left for me to sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's religion was my own life. Everything else I gave. But until I was able to give even this, I wouldn't be classified as truly successful. So it's only then when he's struck on his head by Ibn Muljam that then he can say, even now I have sacrificed everything I have. A person came to the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam on one occasion. Said, Ya Rasulullah, I love you. Rasulullah said, do you love me more than your children? He said, yes. He says, and what else? He says, Ya Rasulullah, I love you more than my house and my wealth and even my wife, my children, everything. Rasulullah says, anything else you want to add? He says, no. I love you more than my children, my wealth, my house, my own wife. Rasulullah said, you don't truly love me. What do you mean, Ya Rasulullah? He said, it's only when you love me even more than your own self, your own nafs, that you're able to give even your own nafs for me. That's when you have true love. This is exactly what we find in the life of Ali bin Abi Talib. When he said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I love you and I am your servant, not more than just his own wealth and children and family and health. He says, even more than my own nafs. Which is why then when he is struck, he says, Fuztu, I was successful. The second question that I said very quickly we need to analyze, why did he say Fuztu wa Rabbil Ka'bah? By the Lord of the Kaaba I have been successful. Why? Here, there's a number of reasons. I could mention at least 10. But just some of those reasons as to why he said by the Lord of the Kaaba and didn't choose anything else. We understand, number one, that the ulama of course tell us Kaaba is the sign of Tawheed. Kaaba is one of the signs of Tawheed on this earth, one of the biggest signs of Tawheed, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so as if he was linking success and Tawheed, i.e. Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba, by the Lord of the Kaaba, by the Lord of the one who placed this house of Tawheed on this earth, I have been successful in only obeying that one God. I have been successful in my covenant with Tawheed. Tawheed being, the Kaaba being a sign of this Tawheed. But also we understand about the Kaaba that as soon as someone says Kaaba, often a story comes to their mind. The story of Abraha and how he tries to destroy the Kaaba. أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ فَعَلَ رَبُّكَ بِأَصْحَابِ الْفِيلِ أَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ كَيْدَهُمْ فِي تَضْلِيلٍ. We think about the story of Abraha and the way that he tried and he marched and he put all his efforts to destroy the Kaaba, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected his house. Likewise, Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he says the Lord of the Kaaba, remember, this person may have struck me on my head. In the way that Abraha would try to destroy the Kaaba, this person may have tried to destroy me and my shakhsiyyah and my legacy. But in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects his Kaaba with these sijil, protects his Kaaba with those birds, likewise Ibn Muljam may try to destroy the shakhsiyyah of Ali bin Abi Talib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects Ali bin Abi Talib. Like he protected the Kaaba, he protects this one that was born in that Kaaba. Another understanding of why he said Rabbul Kaaba is because the Kaaba on certain occasions has been destroyed. Yazid, for example, had demolished certain walls of the Kaaba. In floods, for example, it had been demolished. Whenever the Kaaba was destroyed or demolished, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always had someone to build up that Kaaba again and restore it to how it was previously. Likewise, Ali ibn Abi Talib says, you may have killed me, but in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always restores his Kaaba, always sends someone to restore his Kaaba, likewise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always send an infallible Imam on this earth. And an infallible shall always remain. You will kill one, Allah will restore one with another. In the way that he would restore and ensure that the Kaaba was restored. He says, Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba. For 2 nights, Ali ibn Abi Talib has been on his deathbed. He places a handkerchief around where he is struck, and they say that the handkerchief was yellow in color. So much poison had entered into the body of Ali ibn Abi Talib that his skin was the same color as that handkerchief. This is the Madhlumiyya of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is how Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam has been oppressed. For Allama Amini, I remember, has a famous statement. He says, even if I was given 100 years of life to cry for the Madhlumiyya of Ali ibn Abi Talib, it's not enough. Even if for 100 years I just cried at his grave for how madhloom he was, it's not enough. Ali ibn Abi Talib is taken from Masjid Kufa. blood covering his face, covering his beard. He enters into the house, and as we're told, as he gets close to the house, his companions are with him. Suddenly, he tells Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, Abu al-Fadl Abbas, tell the companions to stop. Why? Oh, our father, why? He says, because Zainab and Kulthum are crying inside of the house. And I don't want these companions who are not mahram to them, I don't want them to be able to hear the cries of my daughters Zainab and Kulthum. For according to certain historians, when Ali ibn Abi Talib was struck, Zainab has a kalam, wal-uhdatu ala rawi, Zainab has a kalam where she says, for some reason tonight, and these words break the heart of anyone, for some reason tonight, it's as if I can hear the voice of my mother Zahra as if she is crying. For Zahra knows that today, soon, in a few hours, in a few days, Zainab, Kulthum, Hassan and Hussein will become orphaned once again. Ali ibn Abi Talib enters into the house. Kulthum, Zainab, they rush towards their father till a time comes when they try to give him milk to drink. Ali ibn Abi Talib says, I will drink this milk on one condition. First, quench the thirst of my killer Ibn Muljim who has been captured. Then Ali ibn Abi Talib will drink. And then slowly, the poison begins to seep into his body and gets close to his brain, until Imam Hassan says, I called a doctor. The doctor says, I entered into the room and I saw Ali ibn Abi Talib on his deathbed. I would check the wound and see the amount of poison and the state of the wound. Until I came to Imam Hassan, I said, Oh Hassan, make your father give you his last will and testament, for soon he will leave this world. Take his last wasiyah. Suddenly Imam Hassan looks at the doctor and says, keep your voice down, O doctor, for do you not know Zainab and Kulthum are watching and are listening to your words. If they hear that their father is about to leave this world, I don't know what will go through their hearts. I say, Ya Imam Hassan, you didn't wish for Zainab and Kulthum to hear the martyrdom of their father. Look and see, in Karbala, not only did they hear the martyrdom of Hussein, Zainab says, I would see a time when Shimr was sitting on the chest of Abu Abdullah. The days go on, Zainab, Kulthum are always surrounding their father. At one moment in time, Amirul Mu'mineen says, I wish to give my last will and testament. And then he calls Imam Hassan forward. He calls every single one of his children. He takes their hand and makes them place their hands in the hands of Hassanul Mujtaba. Each of the children are given a chance to pay and give allegiance to Imam Hassan, and suddenly we can hear crying in the corner of the room. Ali says, who is crying? The response would come, al-Baneen al-Arba'a. al-Baneen cries. He says, why do you cry, O al-Baneen? She would say, every single one of your sons, their hands were placed in the hands of Imam Hassan, except for the hands of my son Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. She says, why did you not place the hands of Abbas in the hands of Hassan? Amirul Mu'mineen would say, because his hands will only be in the hands of Sayyid al-Shuhada. A time would then come when the soul leaves his body, the women begin crying, wa Sayyida, until ghusl and kafan was given. He was was carried in a coffin with Jibreel and Mikael at the front, Hussein and Hassan at the back. They were told, wherever this coffin will stop, this is the place where you bury Ali ibn Abi Talib. Hassan with one shoulder, Hussein with the other, Jibreel and Mikael at the front. They bring the coffin to a standstill. They see a grave has been dug, within which there is a shield saying, this has been kept for Ali ibn Abi Talib by Nabiullah. And so Hassan and Hussein begin to give burial to their father. I say, Ya Ali, even though there were very few whilst you were being buried, even though it was dark, at least you had someone to pick up your coffin and bury you. Come to Karbala and see Hussein has no coffin, has no ghusl and kafayan. Hussein has no one to bury him for 3 days. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.